Welcome to the Teaching with Small Boats Alliance webinar series, and we're going to continue our conversation about program planning. We have an ongoing panel discussion with Lory Newmyer, a long time at the Hull Lifesaving Museum in Boston, Rich Eisenberg from the Bayfront Maritime Center in Erie, Pennsylvania, and Tyson Trudel from the Center for Wooden Boats in Seattle. And I'm Joe Youcha from Building to Teach, and I spent a lot of time at the Alexandria Seaport Foundation in Alexandria, Virginia. We're talking about program planning, and we thought in this session we'd kind of throw it out to our panelists to describe one of their programs and really to talk about what happens in the program, who they're serving in the program, and what the program goals are. And we thought we'd try and mix up the types of programs. So we'll be talking about workforce development programs, we'll be talking about alternative education programs, after-school programming, and field trip programs. So to get us started, we'll throw it to Lory, and she can kind of give us the overview and kick off the discussion.
Great, thanks, Joe. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the Maritime Apprentice Program, which is the Lifesaving Museum's multi-year intensive job training program for the most proven risk youth in the city of Boston. And I've just said all of those words jammed together to illustrate how very narrowly we thought about defining who we were going to serve. Older, only young men coming out of the juvenile justice system. Young men who were considered unservable by other programs, although we very deliberately never thought about MAP as a program of last resort. People who refer kids to us sometimes did think of us that way. But because we had identified an extremely vulnerable and dangerous population, we built the entire program around their needs and around building our staff's strengths to meet those needs. We also built a very careful and deep partnership with many clinical other programs, and then most excitingly, our alternative education partners. Very early on in the development of this year-round program that operates almost like a school. I mean, it's 365 days a year. It's not residential, but sometimes we felt like we lived with our students. We knew that the most important thing that we were going to do for them was to get them high school credentials, either get them diplomas or GEDs. These were all very intelligent, high-functioning young men, very creative, but 90% of whom were high school dropouts and way over age and under-credentialed. Of course, getting jobs was very important, but also decreasing their involvement with their gangs was very important. So those were some of our major goals. Some of the tools we used were we pay our apprentices for every moment that they are doing something constructive. So when they were in MAP, they were paid an hourly wage. When they're in school, they're paid an hourly wage. They also were paid to get clinical treatment, that sort of thing. So we tried to build in lots of positive incentives. Around all of this, the most important thing in our program and why it is successful, I believe, and we're told by both our students and the world around us, is the emotional environment of the boat shop. So MAP is housed in a working urban shop. It smells like a boat shop. It looks like a boat shop. It's near the water. It's very gritty. But it feels unbelievably safe. When we very first thought of it, we said we want to have an oasis in the city. We want a sanctuary. And words like oasis and sanctuary are always in our minds when we're thinking about what is the place going to feel like. And in the end, what we're told by our students is that it feels like home, except it feels like the home they wish they had, meaning it feels safe. And that idea of creating a place of safety that the students themselves maintain. I mean, we have lots of young men from rival gangs in a very small, hot place, and yet they are committed to maintaining that place as a safe environment because it became that that home for them. Behind that is an extraordinary staff who really got a lot of training in trauma responsiveness and trauma sensitivity. And, I think we all know who are in this field, that idea of the one adult with whom you can form the trusting relationship, that really, we see that every day in MAP, that one-on-one relationship with that person can be so transformational in the life of a very troubled young person. I'll stop there, Joe.
Okay, Laura.
Sorry.
No, that's great. I mean, that's every time I hear you talk about that program, it reminds me why I did 20 years with our apprentice program.
Yeah.
So, Rich, do you want to talk to us about your alternative school program?
Yes. We had heard, we're in our 5th year of the Bayfront Alternative Education Program. Actually, just last day of school was 2 days ago for this 5th year. We had heard that the local school district wanted to do something a little different with these kids, more effective, and we wrote up a proposal with one of our partners, a long-term partner, the Sarah Reed Children's Center, and the district liked it, and hopefully we'll be starting our 6th year next year. These are kids that have all been removed from high school for chronic classroom disruptions and fighting. Actually, fighting is one of the big things. It's like Lory was saying, it's just extremely critical that you build a relationship with these students. And if they think you don't care, they don't care what you think. And that's real clear right away. Like Lory was saying, we're in the boat shop. We're have created a place where it is safe to be, and the East Side kids and the West Side kids and all can come there and feel safe, and it is a sanctuary place. The Sarah Reed Children's Center brought this sanctuary program to Erie, Pennsylvania. Actually, it's spread through the state. They're the ones that brought it, and it's based on trauma-informed care, not what's wrong with this kid, but what happened to this kid that would make them act like that. And the kids bring their issues to school like we all do, and some days they come in the boat shop, all right, this is great, what are we doing? And then the next day it's to heck with you, and to heck with the boats, and to heck with this, and to heck with that, and you have to be ready for each of these kids every day with what they bring. They're great kids, they're wonderful kids, they're not easy kids, and this picking that staff that can deal with these kids, that can roll with these punches, that can greet these kids with a sense of humor when they lash out and they expect a equal and opposite reaction, and they get humor, or someone that really cares, is extremely effective with these kids. Maybe that's enough for right now.
No, I think that's great. For me, it's wonderful when the program really gets built for identified community needs, and it's really a recognition of the success of your program that you get asked to address such a critical problem in your community. Tyson, you want to take your field trip, the center's field trip program?
Sure. So the Center for Wooden Boats is almost 40 years old, and we our founder started a for-profit boat rental before he started the center, so it wasn't a place that was started with a, hey, we're going to serve a bunch of youth thing, drive. But eventually, the field trip thing was the first program the center did, and it came out of people calling us up and saying, we're calling Dick up, our founder, and saying, hey, can I bring some kids down, and can you take them out on the water? Which is essentially what we still do. And So this program serves about 4,000 kids a year, and we have a few different things that we do, but they all kind of fit in two categories. So we spend about an hour out on the water, out on a Lake Union, which is this beautiful lake in the middle of Seattle, and we do that in it's called an umiak, and it's a boat type from the Arctic, skin on frame, 25 feet long. You can put 15 kids in it. Each kid gets a paddle. A knowledgeable adult sits in the back and directs it, and everybody gets to go for a boat ride. And then the other half of this program is some hands-on thing. So typically, in our most popular program, it's building a toy boat. And so they get a little hull, and they're taught how to use a hand drill, and they drill a hole, and they put a mast in, and they decorate it, and they get to take it home. It's their own boat that they get to have. So I think the goals of this program are primarily to introduce folks to the water. And, you know, for a lot of our kids, and this is one of the questions we ask, is who's been on a boat before? And around in the Seattle area, most people have been on a ferry, but, you know, most people haven't, most of our kids haven't been out on a small, like on a boat that they're propelling. Definitely not on a human-powered boat. And so it's that familiarization piece, like just getting out on the water for the first time. And on that side of things, our primary goal is that none of our kids are more scared of going out on the water after they go out with us than they were before. And so sometimes you have to work that through with the kids, and some kids, you know, and this program serves kindergarten through 12th grade really, but most of our folks, we don't get too many people after 6th grade.
Wow.
And so sometimes we have kids that don't want to get on the boat, and that's totally fine. We just give them the opportunity and say it's totally up to you. And then on the project side, it's kind of our goal is to introduce kids to the idea that they can use tools and they can make things, you know, and that there's a broader world of making and doing, and that if that's for them, they should pursue that. So that's kind of the genesis of that program. About 5 years ago, we looked at it and we said we had the opportunity to partner with some of our schools, both private and public, to kind of up the academic content of that and serve older kids. So we developed 3 separate modules that are aligned with curriculum goals around Washington State history, some STEM, so we do a program that's called Model Boat Design, where kids design and build a functional model sailboat in 2 hours, and they get to try it out in the pond. And then we do one on the history of Native Americans in the Puget Sound region. And that's been very successful for us and been growing. Our field trip program has grown. We served 2,000 kids in 2011, and we just served in 2013 we served 4,000 kids in that program.
Wow.
Wow.
Wow. That's really cool. That's really cool. That's just an awesome program. The what I was going to talk about is the Seaport Foundation's educational boat building program, where we use a lot of the materials that we've developed for Building to Teach. And basically, we go out into the middle schools to work with kids. So this is us going on the road and working in classrooms and after school. The program started as a summer camp program for kids who had failed. So these are rising 6th graders. Kids are going from elementary school to middle school who had failed summer school in math. And they were getting promoted to 6th grade. They weren't being held back. So they were getting promoted to the middle school, and what could we do to get them up to speed in math and to help them make the transition to middle school so that they could be successful. So we would do a week-long boat building summer camp, and then we'd work, then all those kids would be assigned to one career and tech ed class, and then we'd work with that career and tech ed class during the year, during their 6th grade year. The idea was to, again, use boat building to focus on math skills and to help them with the transition. It was very interesting about that program was that we weren't funded by the schools. We weren't asked by the schools to do this. We were asked by the juvenile courts because the courts knew that the kids made the decision to drop out sometime in the 6th grade, 7th grade time frame. And if a kid dropped out, the odds of them coming before the court were much greater. So this was a prevention program by the courts, and they asked us to do it, and we did. And it's been really successful, and we've built full-size boats, skiffs, but we've also really gotten into building model boats and to building other projects like cigar box guitars. From the math standpoint, we've been doing this program for about 5 years now, and from the math standpoint, all the kids in that first class, they all passed their math classes that year. They went on. Some of them got it bumped up a year in math, and were taking algebra in 8th grade. And so they all did well, and only 2 of them failed a math class in middle school. So that's worked very well, and the program's grown. It's been picked up by other middle schools within the school district. It's expanded to work after school. It's expanded to reach into teaching algebra, to where we're working with a CTE class and an algebra class that have the same kids in them, and it works. It works pretty well. In one class, they're pushing algebra really hard, so that we have 8th graders who failed their standardized math test in 7th grade, but were close to passing. Those kids were placed into an algebra class, so they skipped 8th grade math and were put into 9th grade algebra in 8th grade, even though they had failed 7th grade. And those were the kids we were given, and we were working with them in both an algebra strategies class, which is a support class, and in their CTE class. And 7 out of 11 of those kids passed their standardized tests this year. So they're moving on to, so 7 of them are moving on to geometry. So it works, and it's been picked up, like I said, by other schools within the district. It's been picked up by other school districts, and we're looking at taking a version of it and using it as an outreach tool to help build a pipeline of students going to a new technical high school that's being done in partnership with a local community college, so the kids will get dual enrollment credit. So they'll be earning college credit while they're in high school and earning technical certificates as well. So, you know, when we're talking about programs and program design, you know, one thing leads to another, and again, you want to keep your eyes on the ball. You know, the goal is to help these kids become successful, and we happen to do that by helping them gain the math skills that, if they didn't have, would be a boundary to their future success. So that's what we do, and I mean, again, guys, I think you guys do tremendous work. Again, we're at our about 20-minute time limit. So
can I just ask one thing before we break?
Absolutely, Laura.
Tyson, I just need to know, do you actually put 15 kindergartners in the Umiak at once with one adult?
No. So how that works is the younger kids there's a higher chaperone ratio.
Wait a minute. Who said there had to be an adult with them? Come on.
We have all these. No, they're adults. They have to bring. So the younger, there's a break, and at like first grade, second grade and up, you can just have 2 adults on board. They're adults. Our staff, 2 of their adults. At kindergarten, you have to have 5 adults on board. Yeah,
Wow.
I should put the video of student paddling. It's really fun to watch.
Yeah, I'd like to see that.
What
That
I
would
loved
be
about
great.
listening to everyone describe their program was I was thinking about the 10 key elements we had talked about and how much of just listening to you talk about it, you can hear the work that everyone's done thinking about those elements, whether consciously or by luck.
Well, Lory, I think that's the ideal wrap up. You know, I mean, those elements, you know, identifying your clientele and identifying what you're going to do with them, identifying, you know, all those parts that are necessary in order to make a functioning whole of a program are just critical. So this is going to wrap up our second conversation about program planning, and hopefully we know we'll be having more, and look forward to presenting them to you. So guys, thanks very much. Again, Lory from Hull Lifesaving Museum, Rich from the Bayfront Maritime Center in Erie, and Tyson out at the Center for Wooden Boats in Seattle. And again, I'm Joe Youcha from Building to Teach. So thanks very much.
Thank you, Joe.
Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, Joe.
All right.